So yes, we've all had this conversation over the years, ain't we? Carl, wouldn't it be good if we had Matchroom versus Queensbury? That'd be bloody brilliant, wouldn't it? But your mate says, no, Rolex, that'll never happen, bruv. Frank and Eddie get on like a bummo on a bad curry. Well, lo and behold, it's time to pinch yourself, people, cause it's happening. Matchroom versus Queensbury, 5 versus 5. But what's in store? What are the rules? And what filthy matchups could we see in the ring on this monumental night of rivalry? Let me break it down for you, strapping. Don't it warm the cockles of your heart? I got all emotional seeing that handshake. It's a new beginning, but equally a little throwback to the Eubank Ben fight years ago, with Eddie's dad Barry promoting Eubank and Frank with Don King promoting Nigel. A mega grudge match that we will never forget. Interestingly, Don King negotiated one of his dodgy fucking contracts at the time that meant the winner and the loser would have to sign with him. But then the fight ended in a draw. What a stroke of luck, eh? So Bazza and Frank said, well, that weren't in the contract, Donald, me old son, so you can go and get fucked. Well played, lads, and yeah, unlucky Don, it couldn't happen to a nicer bloke. Anyway, but now this is not just a joint venture out the blue, it's the vision of the super duper excellent Turki Alalshikh. And as we know in the past, certain fights between the stables wouldn't have been made due to the financials. Now, thankfully, that's not going to be an issue. So, of course, let's start with what could be the main event then, eh? Well, it's pretty obvious to me. It's got to be Matchroom's Carl Froch versus Queensbury's Big John Fury. Let's not fuck about. Undercard, I reckon Bellew cleverly free. Number 2 was fucking blinding. Who don't want to see that again? No, I'm joking. Let's get serious, because this is going to be big, baby. So what are the rules then? Well, it's more intricate than we first thought. It's not a case of Eddie and Frank sitting down discussing who could fight who. No, this is how it works. First of all, Eddie gets to decide on 2 weight classes, Frank then gets to decide on 2 weight classes, and His Excellency gets to decide on the final one. This could potentially be the main event, which might be an absolute barnstormer. We know he likes to push the boat out, so we're buzzing to hear it. Oh yes. And then secondly, according to Edward, us fans will be informed of the weight classes chosen by Matchroom, Queensbury and His Excellency relatively soon. However, we will have to wait till the Joshua and Ngannou fight week to hear the announcements of the actual fights. This is when they intend to hold a press conference for the long-awaited 5 versus 5, and the stables will lay down their weapons. And thirdly, how will the announcements be made? Well, this is the interesting part. Let's say, for instance, Eddie chooses cruiserweight. In the press conference, he might say, my pick is Jai Opetaia, and then Frank will have to retaliate and he might say, my pick is Ellis Zorro. But Ellis might say, oh fuck off, not again bruv, I've only just reattached my fucking head. No, but you get what I'm saying. Frank might say heavyweight and choose David Adelaide, then Eddie has to reply with someone like Johnny Fisher. The run for ball, oh yes please, and we'll talk about that little ditty of a fight in a minute. However, that's not all. There is one rule that is yet to be agreed, which could make things very interesting, as Eddie mentioned in his interview with Coogan.
Is there a transfer window deadline?
Yes. Well, let me explain what that means. It means, can fighters be signed in the lead up to the announcements? And if so, what is the cut-off date? This could lead to a few fighters scrambling around to get signed to Eddie and Frank, because we know everyone's double keen on a Saudi payday. Who's to say we don't see Chris Eubank Jr. signing with Queensbury, Frank choosing him, and then Conor Benn being Edwards' pick in the same weight class, even though we're all a bit fucking bored of that fight now. But still, you never know, it's just an example. So keep a lookout for any new interesting signings by Matchroom and Queensbury in the next few weeks, because it may be a tactical move for them to feature in this colossal event. And yes, that's how it works, that's all we know so far. But more importantly, what saucy pairings could end up being announced? Well, let's start with the bad news. In terms of the heavyweights, now that Fury Usyk has been postponed, we probably won't be seeing Tyson Fury topping the bill against Joshua. Regardless the outcome of the Usyk fight, it's still likely to be too close to the May 18th date. Anthony Joshua is on March the 8th with Zhang and Parker on the undercard. Is that going to exclude them as well? Well, possibly. Nobody really knows yet. But here's the good news. The matchups cannot fail to be absolutely fire, as the kids say. It's going to be lit and ting, bare peng, you know, because you can bet your bumhole that both Eddie and Frank will be picking their heaviest artillery. I mean, think about it this way. If Frank predicts Eddie might choose lightweight, and he's got the likes of Andy Cruz on his books, Frank will have to pick a ruddy good lightweight that can match him. Otherwise, he's banging trouble. So hopefully this means 50-50 fights across the board. Now let's have a look at some juicy ones, shall we? Well, with Anthony Yarde having had a couple of tickovers recently, we may see him as a Queensbury light heavyweight feature. If he's not fighting Buatsi, of course. But who then would be Eddie's choice? Well, the name many are calling for is Callum Smith, though we don't exactly know what Callum's future plans are yet. However, Eddie's thrown in a bit of a curveball.
So you got the Callum Smith option as well.
I like Craig Richards against Anthony Yarde. And if the 175-pound division gets chosen in the Matchroom v Queensbury fight, there is a very good chance that our pick will be Craig Richards.
Yeah, so I'm sure many would prefer Callum, but this is still a double tasty fight as well. Richards may have lost, but he held his own against Bivol, and he only narrowly lost to Buatsi as well. He's very tough, he's very game, and I personally don't mind it at all, bruv. Then how's about a bit of middleweight? Well, we've got Hamza Shiraz and Nathan Heaney for Queensbury. Matchroom have Felix Cash and Ammo Williams. Any matchup within those four would be rather interesting. Then we've got the likes of Lee Wood and Warrington around featherweight for Matchroom. They're talking about fighting each other, but who's to say that Warrington doesn't re-sign with old Frankie boy? It's more of a UK fight, but still, you never know. Regardless though, one of them against Queensbury's Nick Ball, yes, don't mind if I do, if he's available in time after fighting Vargas on the Joshua undercard. Or maybe even Lara versus Ball, yes, sign me up. And then come on then, let's have it, the heavyweights baby. Yes, Queensbury's Joe Joyce faces Cash Ali in March, but assuming he comes through that and doesn't get fucking eaten, blimey, you gotta be careful when old Cash the fucking vampire's about. But yes, with Big Joe in the mix, Eddie has Dempsey McKean and Dillian White. No idea what's going on with Dilly Willy, but still, another juicy heavyweight barnstormer would be Matchroom's Johnny Fisher versus Queensbury's David Adelaide. Yes, now some have even mentioned Moses Atuma instead of Adelaide. Well, of course, we don't mind that as well. Either way, it's a double exciting prospective fight. And just to sweeten things up, we hear that there's going to be bonuses for the fighters and the winning teams. This is blinding because it's going to rile up the troops even more. And you never know, hopefully there'll be bonuses for knockouts as well. It's not really been mentioned, but I'm sure His Excellency is a long-time subscriber of Proper Boxing. He's probably watching this now thinking that's a bloody blinding idea. I'll have some of that proper, fingers crossed. So then now we've talked about some potential matchups, stop listening to my bollocks and let's see what the experts are saying. Hey G-Man, who do you want to see, bruv?
Alright Proper, this is what I want. Heavyweight, Moses Atuma, Johnny Fisher. Light heavy, Anthony Yarde, Callum Smith. Middleweight, Felix Cash, Hamza Shiraz. Lightweight, Sam Noakes, Gary Cully. Featherweight, Nicky Ball, Josh Warrington.
Yes, love it. What's Adam Cattrall saying then?
Kicking off the main card for me, Fabio Wardley, Daniel Dubois, Peter McGrail, Dennis McCann make that fight. Callum Smith, Anthony Yarde, Joe Cordina defending his world title against Nick Ball. Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury.
Lovely jubbly, terrific stuff. So yes, some other notable mentions that may have some potential. Pacheco versus Parker, Hopi Price versus Nathaniel Collins or Masood Abdullah, Joshua Franken versus Junaid Boston, Dennis McCann versus Shabazz Masood. Yes, there's many options and a lot of intrigue. So the Matchroom Queensbury rivalry may have finally been resolved, but it's about to bloody start up again, isn't it? However, this time round, it's totally worth it. So bring it on. Check out the podcast on the Wednesdays and I'll see you triple soon. Bosh.